Perfect. Alrighty, so we'll jump straight in. But before we dive in, I would like to take a moment to ground us in respect and gratitude. I would like to start by acknowledging the Quandamooka people who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I live and work, and I pay my deepest respects to elders past, present, and future. As a proud Palawa descendant, I commit to using my voice and my power to protect and preserve the planet as my ancestors have done. Because sustainability isn't a trend, it is a tradition, it is innately human, it is part of all of us, and it is so very needed. I'd also like to start off by saying thank you. I am so genuinely grateful that you've taken time out of your day to be here, whether you are joining us live today or catching up on the replay. Thank you. You are showing up for this session, you are showing up for yourself, your business, and you are showing up for this incredible community that we are building together. I am so passionate about community and the power of connection, and I know deep in my bones, in my waters, that we can create a better fashion industry. So the fact that you are part of the Slow Fashion Lab, or you've gained sneaky free access today for this call, you're here, and that means something so important. We are part of this movement for positive change, and it's so powerful, and I am just so grateful. So thank you. I'll go over the usual groundwork before we get into the good stuff. So yes, today's call is being recorded. So if you need to step away or turn your camera off and do the washing or pack an order, no worries, you do you. The replay will be added to your Notion dashboard by the end of the day. Excuse me, take notes if you like, but there's absolutely no pressure. You can watch the replay anytime that works for you. Also, this is a safe space. There are no wrong questions. There are no silly questions. There are no weird questions. I love the weird questions. These calls exist to get the answers that you need. So please feel comfortable to ask. And know that whatever kind of week you are having, whether it is good or bad or ugly or busy or organized, quiet, whatever it is, messy, it's welcome here. Business can be hard. So bring it to the table. We're all doing it together. And if anything about today's call, today's topic feels icky, you are also not alone. You are supported and you are exactly where you need to be. We'll keep everyone on mute while we walk through today's content and then open up to questions at the end. But please use the chat along the way. If you've got something to share or ask, don't be shy. Please drop it in the chat. And I always like to start our calls like this because we are all doing the rush, doing the bus, doing the care. So let's just take a breath and breathe in and inhale and exhale. You don't need to have it all figured out. Just listen today and let it land. You are not expected to know this stuff. You are here to learn. And if you're confronted by anything that you learned today because it's new, that's actually amazing. It is not a bad thing that you didn't know it. Realizing that there's something new to learn is an avenue for growth. So take what you need, leave what you don't, and treat any little uncomfortable feeling of being out of your depth as an opportunity to grow. And lastly, if at the end of this call you need more help, please know that there is always more help available. Don't struggle in silence. I built my business alone for the first 5 years and I didn't ask for help and it led me straight to burnout. I don't want that for you. Support is here. So use our private lab Facebook group, pop in and support your fellow members and ask for help when you need it because you will be supported. You've got my blog. It's updated weekly with fashion business tips and how-tos, and my Instagram feed is packed with goodness to support your business. Use every tool that you have available in your TFA toolbox to increase your sales and deepen your impact and grow the business that you are here to build. You don't need to do it alone. Alrighty, let's get into the good stuff. Mel Silva, she is one inspiring woman. She is the VP and Managing Director of Google Australia and New Zealand, and she has an incredible career that she's going to share with you today. She's crafted digital strategies for Citibank, ING Direct, AMP. She has risen through the ranks of global leadership roles. She's on the board for the Business Council of Australia, and she has sat at some very big tables over her career, all while keeping her values front and center. Now she leads the multi-billion-dollar tech powerhouse Google in Australia and New Zealand. I'm sure you've all heard of it. And she joins us today to share her insights and her experience to help our founders in the slow and sustainable fashion space. Mel, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Claire. And thank you for such a wonderful, warm welcome. Way too generous.
That was the short version, but I thought I'd keep it small today.
Yeah.
Now, let's just kick off. Let's get into the deep stuff. So, you lead teams at Google and you have changed and impacted company wide practices, which is no small feat. What's been easy and what's been hard?
Well, look, it is actually a massive question. I think the stuff that's been easy is the sort of one-to-one impacts that you have just through connecting with people. Like, I'll talk a lot about this today, I'm sure, Claire, but I think the interactions that you have just as a human being in a workplace are some of the most impactful things. Like I deeply remember interactions that I had with senior people when I was just starting out my career. It has, shaped me a lot. It's shaped what I do. It's shaped what I don't do. Um, and I think those one-to-one interactions really do help get the most out of people. And that's really the beginning of change. But when you start to think about the big stuff, right? Like the really big change. I mean, the things that I'm super proud of are things like the shift to flexible work here at Google in Australia and New Zealand. We are like one of the only countries in all of Google to offer that. That's the result of a lot of hustle, a lot of groundswell, a lot of personal experiences, and having the right, I guess, processes in place to support that. I've been at Google for 18 years. I had all three of my children while I was here, and like it's been a really different experience for each of them. Like, you know, begging for a 4-day week return when I first had my first baby, to just like assuming I would have a 4-day week when I returned when I had my second, to like my boss saying, "Do you want to come back part time?" when I had my third child, right? Like that's the the evolution. But hustling and fighting and putting the case for that has been a much harder one. Things like public holiday swap for Australia Day and sharing that local context. I think anything where it's a uniquely Australian challenge, opportunity, or problem, and hustling that through a global organization is always hard. Um, but I think they're the ones that are worth it the most. But yeah, look, I think behavior and mindset changes are actually the hardest ones. A lot of organizations, especially big ones, have had to go through layoffs or structure changes or things that really disturb people's lives as human beings. And I think leading people through that and keeping them motivated and inspired after stuff like that is actually probably some of the toughest work.
Really interesting to hear you say that the one-on-ones can be some of the most impactful, conversations and changes that you've
Mm.
experienced and had, because I think a lot of us forget that, we're trying to do this big thing that we forget about the little tiny things every single day that can have such a big impact. So I think it's amazing that you
Yeah.
can reflect on that and say that that's some of the most impactful work, because it's a great reminder.
Mm.
And from a leadership perspective, I mean, you're doing a lot from the top level there. What about for our founders that have that leadership doubt, or maybe the imposter syndrome, where they don't see themselves as a traditional leader? What
Mm.
recommendations can you make? What advice can you give to them?
I mean, I actually really struggle with this word, imposter syndrome. I totally get it. I totally have felt like um, I've been out of my depth in so many roles I've taken. Like that's just the nature of doing something that little bit risky. And all of your members, they're entrepreneurs. They're taking that risk. They're doing something which is quite bold. So it is normal, I think, to feel like you're a bit out of your depth. But I do struggle with the word imposter. Like I think it lessens your power in that situation. I think if we just reframed it and to say, this is what learning feels like. Learning feels deeply uncomfortable. And when you're a little bit ahead of your skis, or you're a little bit doing something that's out of your comfort zone, that it feels deeply uncomfortable. But in my career, like there are all the moments where I've just had these ratchets of learning. It's usually 6 months of feeling absolutely out of my depth, 6 months of going, I think I'm starting to get a handle on it. And then the next 6 months is like, oh, yeah, I'm cooking with gas now. Um, Look, I grew up in the western suburbs of Sydney, like sitting on crates, peeling 50 kilos of potatoes every Saturday morning. So I know what a small business um, looks like. My mum she ran this business. Our living room was the office. People would come in and have all of that stuff. We had to be quiet, when there were customers in the lounge room. So I come from that sort of small business entrepreneurial type approach. There's no question in my mind my mum was a leader. My mum had to wrangle stakeholders, suppliers. She had to be the front face. My dad, she was front office. My dad was back office. So leadership has got so many different dimensions to it. But I think what it comes down to is if you rely on people to get things done, whether it's a stakeholder, a supplier, a customer, or an employee, then your leadership is going to be important. I think it's actually almost this quiet leadership that's not sort of strutting around like you're the boss. They're the ones that get the best out of people, right? So just remembering that you're a human is important. I think the one thing that um, for your members who might struggle with the concept of being sort of super direct or see themselves as people who are quite shy or introverted, that I think that the only not negotiable is giving people really clear feedback and holding your line when it comes to what you need for your business to be successful. And that could be feedback to an employee, or it could be feedback to a supplier. That to me is the one thing that people should nurture and grow.
That's such beautiful feedback, and also reminding people that it can be done in a quiet way, because there is that balance of masculine and feminine, isn't it? It's the empathy that moves a room, but it's the masculine direction that gets things going. So it's finding that balance. I think that's beautiful advice for people.
I mean, Claire, I would argue that they can't be separate. I would say that part of my strength is that it is because of the empathy, it is because of the vulnerability that I get the ability to be direct and to set the direction, right? It's that first part that creates the followership for people to, because leaders need followers, right? And so I think it's both of those things that work together, that's where the magic happens.
That's amazing to hear you say you've got both as well. I know a lot of our members do struggle with that, especially in the creative space and the world saving and the earth saving space that is that feminine. So having the both, you are so right, not needing to be one or the other.
Yeah.
It is a blend. And I mean, you are proof that doing it that way, having that balance, being, having the quiet leadership skills and having that personal mission as well is possible at scale. So
Mm.
now I want to talk about your advice for small purpose-driven brands and businesses. How do they practically apply that thinking, that big picture, scalable thinking on a small level to meet them where they're at?
Well, I mean, I think first of all, when I look at some of the purpose-driven organizations that I've had the privilege of working closely with or meeting with, I mean, there is a fire in that belly. There is so much passion to solve a particular problem. And this, we talk about this at Google all the time, but when you've got people who have literally fallen in love with a problem and then are literally doing whatever it takes to solve it, I think sometimes the difference is people fall in love with the solution and then want to kind of shove it wherever they can. But when you've got a purpose-driven approach, you've fallen in love with that problem, and there's a fire there. That's what keeps you going. And I would argue that for you to be doing this sort of work and in this sort of space, there is a fire in that belly somewhere. So tap into that, right? That it's within you. It already is within you. So it's just about being kind of clear about how you're going to express that out into the world. But yeah, I would argue that you could all teach me a thing or two about that.
The fire is a good thing. The fire is
Fire is
a
a good
good
thing.
thing.
You've always got to embrace that inner mongrel.
You
It'll,
do. Unless it leads to burnout, which is what I want to ask you about as well. Because yes,
mm,
so many of us, we are honestly, give me a soapbox and a microphone, and I will talk about fast fashion all day. I do. I get so fired up about it. There's no other way to say it.
mm,
But some of us, and it's come up in other calls too, when we are so passionate, we go, too
yeah.
much the other way, and it's consuming. We work a long day. It's all and nothing. It is just all in.
Mm,
So, what is your
mm.
advice to harness the fire, but not lead to burnout? What boundaries can people put in place?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of love and hate this question all at the same time, only because like I'm not perfect when it comes to this as well. And, you know, there's just so much pressure, I think, put on particularly women, but I think anyone who takes the various roles in their life seriously, like if you take yourself seriously, um, I just don't know how to do something 50%, right? And that's why I loved what you said right at the beginning, because I think asking for help is the one big thing here. Like start waving before you start drowning. But I would be, I'd be misleading you if I said I haven't fallen into this trap before. And I think the older that I get and the sort of calmer that I get, um, I do realize that it's peaks and troughs. And I've become much more attuned to when I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Right? Because I think when you are building something new or you're in a high stakes kind of role, um, there are periods of high intensity, right? But you have to be aware that you need periods of intense recovery after that. Um, and what I say to my folks all the time at Google is I can't go searching under the rug for what you need. You need to tell me, and I need to create an environment where you can tell me. Um, but we talk a lot about being the boss of your boundaries. Right? So for me, that means I want to have dinner with my kids whenever I can. So, yes, there are events that I have to do sometimes at night, or there's client dinners that I have to go to. But more often than not, I am home. I leave the office at 5 o'clock and I leave loudly, right? I am saying goodbye and high fiving to as many people as I can to just show them that I am making this choice. Now, am I sometimes online at 7 o'clock or 8:30 once I've put the kids to bed? 100%. Every night? No way. On the weekend? No way. Do I miss Saturday netball? Never. So I have to have those boundaries and I have to sort of be explicit about what's important to me. And then I have to create a safe environment for people to tell me what they need. But, I think that it's this combination, Claire, of like, can you see the light at the end of the tunnel? If you can't, it's probably the universe telling you need to ask for some help or ruthlessly prioritize what it is you're working on. Make some choices.
When was the last time that you had to ask for help?
Oh, well, I just had a new boss start. He's been in the role for about a year now. It was last August. And the relationship I had with my old boss was that, I set him this expectation. I shared with him, like, God, I'm really bad at asking for help. I need you to ask me if I need help. And so he really tuned into it. Um, but I think it's even with my husband, right? Like I need to almost remind myself that if I ask him to do something, he will do it. But he's not a mind reader, right? Like so, will he think proactively to do all the things that I do? Does he have that constant loop of the, emotional load we all talk about? No, he doesn't. But if I call him and say, hey, can you do this? Or I need you to pick up the kids this day, or we need to figure out who's going to do Saturday sport out at Parramatta this weekend, we have a conversation about it. And that's asking for help, right? And so it's easy, I think, to fall into that trap. But at work, I have to remind my boss that that's what I need. Um, and it's also important to have people who kind of give you the nudge as well. So seeking that accountability. like, I have a tendency to do this. Can you please give me a nudge when you think that I might need a little bit of help? And that works too. Like, so being part of the community like you've created, um, these are the places where you can ask for help, ask for advice, give yourself that little nudge. But you've got to be the boss of your boundaries. That's my number one.
It's interesting to hear you actually two things. How are your children in bed by 7 o'clock at night? And
They're not. Yeah.
um, and secondly, uh, I think it's beautiful that you just said that, you're aware of yourself, that you were famously not good at asking for help. And so you actually have to tell people, you need to tell me. And, maybe we all just stick a post-it note up right in front of ask for help. Like, it's just a
Yeah.
reminder. I think I was born late 80s, 89, our generation in particular. It is this, hustle, do it on your own, don't ask for help. So it's breaking this cycle of not feeling comfortable to ask for help and knowing that asking for help and being vulnerable is actually a strength. It is a
Yeah.
sign of
Yeah.
strength, not weakness.
Absolutely. And, I just think that I've also learned the power of, like, when you do ask for help, 9 times out of 10, you get better because it more often than not turns into a coaching moment. Like, especially when it's like your boss or a mentor or someone who you kind of really respect, they then sort of give you an easier way to do it or show you an easier way to do it. So, yeah, there's just it's got to be coming from a place of humility, not from a place of weakness. There's a really subtle difference there. But yeah, that's been my experience. But I'm very good at giving this advice and not good at taking it sometimes. So yeah.
I'm looking in a mirror this week. If anyone's been on the blog, and wait till I upload the blog I posted this morning, but we all fall into that, don't we? It's easier to help other people than to help ourselves, but also in sharing and in talking, it is a reminder
Mhm.
for ourselves. So this is another part of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it helps we grow, other people grow, and this is also what builds influence, which I would love to talk to you about
Yeah.
as well. Influence
Yeah.
can create positive change. So what does meaningful influence mean to you, and how do our small grassroots brands create big change when they're little?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think it's a really fraught topic. So I will just opine here based on my own 2 cents. I kind of feel like the word influence has become a little bit tainted or associated with this, like, loud megaphone. I've got lots of followers and therefore I influence, right? Um, I kind of take a really different view to that. I think that your ability to influence is multiplied when it's really authentic and it's to the right people, right? Um, I I know that I am not as kind of clued up on the role and the role influencing plays in fashion and, trends and all that kind of stuff. But I think about, if I really want to move people to do something or to think differently about something, um, it has to come from a place of authenticity, really. Um, I I build trust with my stakeholders through using that really kind of traditional and really credible. If I say I'm going to do something, Claire, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to let you down. I'm going to do it really well. If I don't do it, I'm going to tell you, like, more than the day before it's due, that it's not going to happen. And I try really hard not to come from a place of self orientation. Right. So I try to come to any kind of influence or partnership from a place of genuine partnership. Um, I kind of think if you do all of those things, it's um, you have a huge influence on people. Now, you know, I think that authenticity is also a word that gets a little bit painted, or the meaning morphs a little bit in the new and kind of digital world. There is no answer to this, but if you're authentic to what you're trying to do, if you really believe in what you're trying to do, and you're sharing that story and what you officially need from people, and just being super transparent. I've had to deliver some really shitty messages to people over the years and then needed them to line up behind me afterwards. Like there is no tougher thing to do in the world. Like if you are disappointing someone and then asking them for something, like that is the definition of like a tough kind of influencing situation. You'd be amazed at. I really feel like if you start from a place of transparency and you share with people exactly what's going on, they become an army for you. They more than just do it out of obligation. They want to follow you, right? If you come from a place of corporate speak or trying to talk the talk or trying to artificially create the trend or artificially convince someone that they want something that they don't need, it's pretty basic stuff, but I see it all the time. Like, and I fall for it all the time on, when I'm scrolling through, I was like, oh no, I really do need to change my parenting approach to be this, that, or the other. And then you go like, no, don't. My instinct is right here. And so yeah, I think, yeah, a few things. Authenticity when you are just completely devoid of what people think about you, coming from a place of transparency and authenticity is going to be a superpower. And people want to see that. They want to be close to that, right? If you start to think about a community of people, not faceless audience numbers, not faceless kind of, like for me, it'd be very easy to sit up here and say, oh, I've got this 2,000 people here and I need to say this to them. And so I'm going to get the comms team to write it up. And like, that's not, I mellify every single thing that comes out of, my inbox. I write my own emails. I do, like this, believe it or not, this feels like a weird thing to say sometimes, right? But I have to treat it like this is a community of people and we're all rowing, different oars of this Google Australia boat and we're on the same team. Right? So it's slightly different to just sort of wanting to say one thing and broadcast that message out there. I want them to see and feel and think and do something at the end of it. And so I authentically come at every communication like that. But again, your impact is going to come through the intention that you bring to everything that you do, right? Like if you want to just be there to make money, then people will figure that out in the long run. Like if you want to do your bit to have an impact on sustainability in the fashion industry, people will feel and see that, as well. So yeah, sorry, that's probably a really vague me vomiting at you, but I just feel like there's a bit of an overemphasis on let's build a huge audience and then make them fall in love with us and then we can sell whatever we want to them. That's a really transient and transactional way to think about how to build community and influence, I think, in the long run, anyway.
I'm going to get a post-it note and write another things to get up on my wall, and I'm going to put mellify it on it and put that on the wall because
Well, you would be clarifying it, or maybe you would be goldifying it. I would probably go with goldifying it.
goldify, sprinkling my gold on it. But that's beautiful advice for everyone. I mean, everyone here has started something because they care about something. I mean, if we wanted to make bank, we'd go and do drop shipping on Amazon, but we're here to create change. So I think leaning into that, and this is why I love reminding people to share that story, because when you're in it every day, you care about it. Other people don't care yet enough about it because they don't know about it. So
That's
sharing that, continually sharing that, I think
yeah,
is really important as well, reminding people why you care so much and inspiring them to care as well.
absolutely. Yeah.
And what about diversity and reconciliation? Because you are a champion of both of those things.
Mm-hmm.
How did you bring inclusion into the table, into this conversation? You created some incredible change at very big scale. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, look, I feel very blessed, and it would be, again, misleading for me to say that I've done everything that Google's done in this space myself. I feel really lucky to have joined an organization that 20 years ago was passionate about things like diversity, equity, and inclusion, um, that enabled people to build community around those sorts of causes. The fact that Google had a kind of reconciliation action plan employee group well before we had a reconciliation action plan, I think speaks volumes to the culture and the environment here. And so that was created by Google and enabled by Google. Wrangling that into something that gets resourced, prioritized, and done and held to account, that's where I'll take some credit. um, but I think there's something just innately human about knowing your place in the world. And for me at Google, it's actually both ends of the spectrum. This is a large, multifaceted, global organization. 120,000 people, 140 countries all around the world. I've always thought my job as the country manager is to show Aussies the most local version of Google that we can possibly be, right? Because we are. We're like the people who are here are all Aussies wanting to do incredible stuff for Australian businesses and Australian users and Australian stakeholders, right? How we do that shows up in lots of different ways, right? And I think, first of all, I'm a big believer that there's a commercial intent and imperative and business case for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Right? I think that when you have a diverse group of people around a table, the ideas that come out are better. The approach and the experience for your employees is better. The approach for your customers is better. And that ends up being a much more profitable business. So I believe in the economics of it first and foremost. But you realize really quickly that you hire people, when you're trying to hire the best people, it's got to be more than the job, right? They've got to have something to believe in. And been here for nearly 20 years, Claire. I have been through the whole gamut of, people who joined Google from other large multinationals who were never able to bring their same-sex partner to a work event. Literally in my career lifetime, right? So when you create a place where people can bring that whole self to work, I mean, whoa, there's a gratitude there. There is a passion that comes along with it. There's a sense of community that comes along with it. That's just like a win-win for everyone, right? The most recent thing with the wrap in particular is, you just feel deeply. I feel deeply as someone who, my parents were migrants from Malta. They grew up in an area in Australia where they were kind of, the wogs at the back of the bus that got stuff thrown at them. My brother even was that. I had Mediterranean people became sort of okay between the time my brother left school and the time I was there. So there was another group that Australia decided to throw rocks at by that stage. And so I've seen the whole gamut of that kind of thing. But when you've had that sort of experience and you've seen people you love feel that way, you kind of become really empathetic to other people who feel that way. And then you can't, you can't help but say, well, who are the traditional owners of this land? Who is really Australian? And you sort of start to see things in a different perspective. So it's been something that I've always had a connection to. But when I saw this group was coming together and trying to make a change, and I saw that we could really push the envelope of going from just, an innovate plan to a stretch plan. I am so incredibly proud of the fact that we are the first tech company in Australia to have a stretch wrap. It is, it's hard work. It is, something that, and it's all through volunteers. So yeah, I don't know. It feeds itself, Claire. Like once you start doing this and then you make an impact and you see how people are engaged and how they're learning and growing, you just want to do more and more of it. Um, it's hard though. It's a lot of tough work, but it's just so worth it. Yeah, so worth it.
It is so worth it. And I think so many of our founders will resonate with that as well, that they're, the work that they're doing, whether it's diversity, inclusion, supporting marginalized communities through
Mhm.
donating with every sale. I mean, they're all doing something incredible for the world. And then they have their hard weeks. But then there is that little glimmer, and they're like, oh, yes, that
Yeah,
it's working. I am getting, traction here, and I am creating an
yeah,
impact. So to hear the runway there of, the dream and the mission and the values and for it to take so long, but then the impact that it has,
yeah,
that is an incredible reminder that those kinds of things are worth it, but sometimes they take time.
yeah, absolutely. And you just got to stay the course.
Stay the course. How have you stayed your course over your career? I mean, it is noisy out there. Greenwashing, fast fashion, there's a lot of stuff in your field, tech, words I don't even understand. How have you stayed your course?
Well, I mean, look, I'm, I've come from pretty humble beginnings, right? So I think I spent the first half of my career and probably all the jobs I had before I joined Google thinking that, oh, look, there's this kind of ivory tower of people who, you know, I want to be there one day. I want to be at those tables. I want to have those kind of conversations. And I think as you kind of work your way through, and especially in Australia, like it's such a relationship based economy, right? It's so unique. I don't think many Australians realize just how unique the Australian way of doing business is. When I go to other markets, particularly to the US, it is very transactional, right? People want to be sold to and pitched, and that's not the way business is done in Australia. And so, you spend the first kind of 10 or so years of your career looking at these super senior people and saying, I want to be there. All the while, you're building these relationships and this network and this group and this community of people. And then you finally grow up and like you look across and they're all your mates, right? Who are there. And so I think a huge part of the purpose comes from wanting to do your bit, like you're wanting to kind of maintain those relationships. And so it's never just it, we've got a large ads business here, right? If I woke up every day and said, oh, well, let's go sell some more ads, that's not why we do it. Like we're doing it because we know that when we have, a great relationship with our customer, we're helping their business grow and we're helping them to, achieve their goals. And so it's about elevating up to what that higher purpose of what you're doing is every day. And I mean, look, I love my job. I love being at the frontier of some tech that's changing stuff. I was literally just making an AI video for my son. He's a bit sick at the moment. Um, so just playing around with new tech and so all those things just motivate me and staying true to what, who you are as a human. What are you going to say on your deathbed about what you did? That's kind of my mantra.
That's a big one. What are you going to say about what you did on your deathbed?
Well, I hope that I'm able to say when I had an impact on people, had an impact on people. But it's probably Claire more what I don't want to say, right? I'm probably more focused on what I don't want to say. I definitely am not going to say I wish I went to more meetings. I definitely am not going to say I wish I went to more offsites or gosh, I wish I had traveled for that 2-day offsite across the other side of the world. No, I'm glad I didn't go so that I could go to my daughter's Holy Communion. I'm glad that I decided that I needed to have a holiday with them and make memories summertime, like stuff like that. I think can when you can be the boss of your boundaries and hold yourself to that kind of decision making, because otherwise you just get into the hustle and you just run and you don't even really make intentional choices. Like that's the risk. But I can genuinely say I look at my calendar each week and go, where are the things that are going to fill my cup? where are the things I have to do that are my job, and what are the things that I could probably give to someone else who's going to learn and grow if I give it to them to do. And that's the way I do it. And that's, that serves me pretty well right now. Ask me next week, it might be complete chaos, but we're all just muddling our way through. That's what I
That's what makes it exciting, isn't it? So how do you define success then?
Oh, look, different hats, different people. Like I said, I mean, I'm a commercial person, so I like it when we meet our targets and hit our targets that we've set, or um, but success for me is seeing people grow and take stretch opportunities. Again, 20 years being here, like we've seen people go from sort of entry level roles here to now going to lead big businesses, either within Google or in other parts of Google around the world, or in big Australian companies. That gives me a lot of joy. With my kids, I want to be the person who gets the phone call if ever things go wrong. That only happens when you invest a lot of time and presence and mindset. Again, not something I do perfectly, but it's that's success for me is being the one who gets the phone call when something goes wrong. And just, another one that I fail at quite dismally is being a good mate. Like I've got sort of 6 of the best girlfriends that a person could ever ask for. And I feel like I'm constantly letting them down. And yet the thing I love about them the most is that they never tell me I'm letting them down. And we can pick up where we left off, even if it's been months and months and months. So, but that's to me success. When I close my eyes for the last time, I want to say my kids always knew they could lean on me. When I was at work, I had an impact on the people that worked there. And I was a good mate. Oh, well, yeah, I guess I wouldn't mind being a good wife as well.
Throw that one in there just in case he watches it.
Anyway, look, let's not send this to Marcella.
That's really beautiful advice for everyone to, yeah, remember that the work is not the be all and the end all. And yes, it is purpose and it is passion, but there is life outside of running a business or running our careers, building our careers. So I think that's incredible advice. Have you got one more nugget? What's one thing that you could leave our slow fashion founders when they're feeling overwhelmed, possibly wanting to quit and things are hard? What's one piece of advice you can give them?
You've got to celebrate the wins, even if they're little. And maybe especially if you're in business by yourself, but especially if you're a leader, a senior leader as well, it can be really lonely. And so you have to find the strength and the rhythm to give yourself a pat on the back every now and again, and just, look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm actually really proud of what I did today. And reflect, like being reflective of the impact that you've had on the world every single day, even if it's a little bit. It's like compound interest, it just accumulates with yourself, with your with the version of yourself and your view of yourself. So give yourself a little pat on the back.
Give yourself a break. Everyone, give yourself a pat on the back.
Yeah, give
Physically
yourself
do
a
it right
pat. High
now.
five yourself.
Yeah, a physical high five in the mirror. That's a good one. That's a good one. Mel, thank you for sharing so openly and honestly and just being you and doing the work that you do. You make the world a better place. You honestly are
Aw,
such an inspiration and just a real human being. Hearing you talk and what you share, it's just an absolute honor to have you
aw.
share
Thanks so
and
much,
lead.
Claire, and thanks for everything you do. I mean, leading communities and taking time to build this sort of community is really, really admirable. So thank you, and thanks everyone.
Thank you so much, Mel. If anyone has any questions, pop them in the group and we can talk about them in the group. Super mindful of Mel's time. Thank you for doing what you do, everyone. Have an amazing week. Go and grab your post-it notes and stick it up on the wall. Any key takeaways and remind yourself. And have a great week, everyone. Thank you so much.
See ya.
Bye.